Hello, namaste. Today on our studio, we have Chandrachur Singh. As most of you know, he's an actor from Bollywood and he's acted in his film Marches, which of course he won an award for. So here we have one and only one, Chandrachur Singh.
Namaskar, Jyoti ji. It's a pleasure to be here. The power of one is the strength of America. The power of one man to change the future of millions in a positive manner. We'll speak more about that.
I know that you have come here for the North Carolina South Asian Indian Film Festival. What do you think about the independent films that people are making out here? And
Actually, I have great regard for independent cinema because in the past it's worked. The Blair Witch Hunt project, I think that was an independent film which really did well. I think independent film is basically you require a lot of courage to make an independent film because you're making for the love of cinema, and the film, if it's got merit, which is so difficult to work on an independent film and make sure that it turns out well with such lack of resources, and yet people have such creativity, and if they're given a good opportunity, that independent film can actually provide good revenue, make great art. And I find these makers very courageous, and I find the films pertinent. I find creative minds trying to find a foothold in the business of entertainment, and I feel that they have a lot to say. So it's a beginning, it's a step forward, but it's definitely requires a lot of courage, a lot of effort, because it doesn't have all the perks of making a commercial film.
now moving forward to your recent activities, I have seen some shows that you have done for Royal Rasoi. So what initiated that?
Royal Rasoi is a show which is produced by my brother Aditya Narayan Singh, and I obviously wanted to work with my brother. And it was a very nice concept of going into royal households and exchange cooking tips, recipes, get to know about the recipes and share them with the viewers. But we made it more than that. We actually took it extempore. There was no scripting. There was a lot of stuff which happened on the spot, and in that we really wanted to research the history of that particular area, the culture. There's so much history involved in the architecture, in the stories of kings of yore, and to know so much more about the place. So Royal Rasoi happened. It was not a program which one had envisioned for oneself, because the television was something I was hesitant to begin with, to debut on. But this show was a perfect launch pad for a one-off thing, because it was very, very interesting, the entire concept of being a part of researching history, the culture, and so many other factors when you go into ancient India, into the heritage hotels, in lovely stories of the country.
Now that we're talking about culture, thinking about culture in those lines, I also know that you really appreciate music, and you actually are yourself a singer. So is it something that you learned as a child or while growing up, or is it something that just interests you? It was your hobby?
Actually, what happened was that singing is something you're gifted with ever since you're a child. So there was an interest there, and I never took it up seriously in the classical format till my 10th, or slightly before that, when I started getting interested in music. And so I learned 1 year before, that's basically my 10th, my 11th and 12th, I learned under Pandit Ashok Roy, who was a disciple of Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab. And I understood the intricacies of Hindustani classical music, learned how to appreciate it, listening to it, because half the battle of growing as a musician is in listening. And I learned vocal music at that time. But beyond that, unfortunately, I never got a chance to pursue it formally. But nonetheless, I kept in touch with it in some way or the other. And with my son, who's now 5.5 years old, being a person who's totally into music, he can sing well, and his passion is music. I have got interested in music in a bigger fashion.
Wow, that's a lot of talents. You're a singer and you also cook and you're an actor. And also, I know one more thing about you, that you like astrology. So there's so many interests. So is what initiated the astrology part of it?
I know very little about astrology because that's the way one should always speak about any subject. Uh, yes, I practiced astrology for almost 10 years. I've been seeing Vedic charts. That's Indian Vedic astrology. There's two formats. One is the South Indian astrology. One is the North Indian astrology, and it's lunar-based astrology. And the best insights I've got is from people from the West who've understood, studied, and written books. One of them being William R. Levacy, who's written Beneath the Vedic Sky, which is a fantastic book to read. And unfortunately, due to lack of time or some of the constraints, I never got a chance to learn formally under anybody. So I read books and read these books. The most significant of them being William R. Levacy's Beneath the Vedic Sky, and that really influenced my study of astrology, my understanding of astrology, and then I started reading charts for friends and acquaintances, and I actually got into it because I wanted to understand certain things about life. How much should be ascribed to free will, and how much is preordained or predestined, and should one be a fatalist or should one just be a doer? And being a thinker, it obviously and it is a art which requires a lot of study. Something like chess or where you keep thinking about the game even afterwards, or bridge, where you keep thinking about the game even afterwards. So it attracted me a lot because it was a stimulant for the intellect, and I had a lot of time on my hand. I was going through a rough patch in my career at that time, and I wanted to use and totally challenge my intellect to constantly be in focus and not think about too many things. And that time I picked it up and I managed to guide others through the medium, and I realized there's a lot of truth in Vedic astrology.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you're feeling, and if you have seen anything? What does it feel like to be in North Carolina compared to Bombay?
Bombay is bustling, quite like New York. So there's a lot of energy there, and I like the quiet and the peace and the serenity of country areas, of mountains, of beaches, which aren't too overcrowded. So I've spent a fair amount of my childhood and my formative years in places like this. So there's a natural attraction to North Carolina. It's beautiful, the countryside. There's a lot of silence. There's a lot of. It makes you. Your mind is quietened a lot. It's a very meditative sort of an atmosphere. And today my sisters took me and made me see the lake, which is beautiful. And we took some pictures there. Saw some kids fishing. Went to the amphitheater and put on a one-act play out there, and it was nice. It was very nice. It is very nice to be here, and there's a lot of time to think. It's in a way you start introspecting. You can't run away from a lot of things. So there's a good meditative atmosphere here, which is very nice, and I love the fresh air, the lack of pollution, and no noise compared to where I come from. I mean, I appreciate all that because I live in that city, and it gives me my job and my honor and everything else. But it's wonderful to be here. I haven't got over the sleep factor though, because I don't sleep much, and I'm really enjoying sleeping at odd times and being woken up at odd times too. So it's interesting. It's wonderful.
Now, what is your future? Like, I know you're doing Royal Rasoi. Have you signed any projects? What's your next project, or what are you planning to do next? If you can tell us a little bit about that.
I'm going to repeat an oft spoken about cliche that I'm in talks for some projects, which is true. Because there are some interesting films that I'm involved in right now, but I've not committed myself to them because nowadays we shoot much like here. We shoot one film at a time, and if you play the protagonist in any of the films, you're required to give a lot of your time. And so now I'm just procrastinating between a couple of projects, and let's see. I have two releases coming up. One in the end of the year, hopefully, and one in January. There's a film called Zilla Ghaziabad, which is about gangsters. It's a dark noir film, very stylized, very interesting. It's biopic. I won't say more, but it's about gangsters, and it's been slightly controversial. And then there's this book by Mohsin Hamid called The Reluctant Fundamentalist, which has been worked upon for 4 years by Meera Naya and made into a feature film with a lot of actors from America, a lot of actors from India, some actors from Pakistan, and that's been premiered at the Venice and at the Canadian Film Festival and been well appreciated. It's a fantastic look at both sides. It's a very non-biased and very interesting film to be a part of. So now I'm looking forward to the release of these two films, and I'm looking forward to doing lots of work because I don't know why at this stage of my life I feel it's very exciting because you can never be typecast as a particular person, or you're not confined to play to an image, because a decade ago when I was working, the romantic hero could not play anything else but the romantic hero, so there was no scope for any negative roles or any comedy, so there's no growth, there's no challenge for the actor, but it's only about the commerce, so you're stuck in one place playing a safe role. And now there's so much scope, you can jump from negative to comic to a serious role. It's so as an actor, it's very exciting, and then you work on one film at a time, so you'll almost subconsciously start living a role, even if though you're not a method actor, even if you are a spontaneous switch on switch off actor, but living with the same unit in one area or almost interacting with them on a daily basis makes you grow as an actor, makes you get into the mood of that character.
As we all know, Chandrachur Singh had won an award for Marches, and just his answer right now shows that, it proves that he can turn off and turn on the switch. I'm also an actor, so I can see, I'm a new actor, and he's been established, and he's very, I think he knows a lot what he's doing, and in Marches he proves that, and I think that's so great that it's an honor that I got to interview. And I just want to say thank you for coming out here, and it was great to see you in North Carolina, and a place like North Carolina where hardly many actors come, so it's been an honor to have you here, and thank you for coming by. And I am Jyoti Singh from TV Asia. Namaste.